This is live from New Delhi. You're watching DT India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi meets Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, set to receive Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger Honor. Ready to work with Trump administration, Xi Jinping tells Biden in Peru. Massive Russian strikes across Ukraine trigger blackouts. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu on Sunday after a warm handshake signifying close ties both the countries enjoy. The India and Nigeria. Prime Minister Modi's visit to the West African nation aims to deepen strategic partnership, focusing on shared values and boosting bilateral cooperation. On his maiden visit, Prime Minister was officially welcomed by Nigerian President Bola Tinubu in Abuja. This visit is the first by an Indian Prime Minister to Nigeria in 17 years. Delegation-level talks were also held between India and Nigeria after one-on-one level talks between the two leaders. Earlier upon arrival in Abuja, Prime Minister Modi was accorded ceremonial guard of honor at the presidential villa. In his remarks with Nigerian President by his side, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi talked of tackling challenges like terrorism, separatism, piracy, drug smuggling together, and both India and Nigeria, he said, will work even more strongly in future as well. Prime Minister was hopeful that the bilateral talks held today will open a new chapter in relationship India and Nigeria ties. Prime Minister also noted that the Indian diaspora in Nigeria is crucial to the relations.
आतंकवाद, अलगाववाद, पायरेसी या ड्रग तस्करी जैसी चुनौतियों से निपटने के लिए हम मिलकर काम करते रहे हैं और मजबूती से हम आगे भी करते रहेंगे। नाइजीरिया में रहने वाले 60,000 से ज्यादा भारतीय समुदाय के लोग हमारे संबंधों में अहम कड़ी है। उनकी देखभाल के लिए एक गार्डियन के रूप में आप जो उनको संभालते हैं, इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आज की हमारी वार्ता से हमारे संबंधों में नया अध्याय जुड़ेगा और हम मिलकर वैश्विक स्तर पर ग्लोबल साउथ की प्राथमिकताओं को उजागर करते रहेंगे और हमारे संयुक्त प्रयासों से सफलता भी मिलेगी।
Nigeria announced decision to honor India's Prime Minister Modi with its award, the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger. This marks the 17th international award being conferred upon Prime Minister Modi by a foreign nation. Prime Minister Modi will be the second foreign dignitary to receive this honor. Earlier, Queen Elizabeth was the only foreign dignitary who has been awarded the Grand Commander of the Order of Niger way back in 1969. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also expressed his gratitude to the government and people of Nigeria for the decision to bestow this prestigious honor on him.
यह सम्मान केवल मेरा नहीं, लेकिन ये सम्मान 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों का सम्मान है और यह भारत नाइजीरिया के सदियों पुराने जो संबंध है, उन संबंधों का सम्मान है और इस सम्मान के लिए मैं नाइजीरिया का, आपके सरकार का और देशवासियों का हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
In Nigeria, Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded the Marathi community for being connected to its culture and roots when the community expressed joy on Marathi language being conferred the classical language status. In a post on platform X, Prime Minister Modi wrote, and I quote, "In Nigeria, the Marathi community expressed joy at Marathi being conferred the status of a classical language. It is truly commendable how they remain connected to their culture and roots." Unquote. Earlier, DD India correspondent Prasar Bharati caught up with the Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria, G. Balasubramanian, in Abuja to find out more about the significance of Prime Minister Modi's visit to the West African nation.
India is the pharmacy of the world, and Indian pharmaceutical products are very popular over here, both because of its affordability and because of its efficacy. Indian companies have invested more than $4 billion in Nigeria alone in manufacturing pharmaceutical products in the country. We had a defense team come over here, defense manufacturers team come over here in the month of March. They had participated in an exhibition. They had identified certain areas in which they are working together. We have also offered some lines of credit in terms of purchase of some of our platforms. So these are things which are ongoing, and I'm sure will fructify in the near future. We have already supplied close to about $280 million worth of various equipments, including simulators, ammunition, and so on and so forth. And Indian products are looked very favorably in Nigeria. Indian companies have been present here for many decades. More than 200 Indian companies have invested $27 billion into the Nigerian economy. We, meaning the Indian companies, are the second largest employers of Nigerians after the federal government of Nigeria. Nigeria had been one of our largest oil suppliers. We used to buy nearly about $10 billion of oil, which because of various geopolitical reasons, there's a small change in that. So this is a two-way relationship that we are having, and I'm sure energy is something in which both the countries wish to cooperate and continue to further consolidate. It will only further grow.
DT India correspondent Prasar Bharati caught up with T. Venkata Subramanian, General Secretary, Indian Pharmaceuticals Manufacturers and Importers in Nigeria, to find out more about the significance of Prime Minister Modi's visit on pharma industries, in particular in the African nation.
The global presence of Indian pharmaceutical industry is very strong. We are always called as the pharmacy of the world. And the Indian pharmaceutical companies are doing extremely well in the Nigerian market, and particularly we also have an association called Indian Pharmaceutical Manufacturers and Importers, which I also represent as a General Secretary. In fact, this visit was something which we were waiting for, and we are expecting some major breakthroughs to come, like, talking about Indian pharmacopoeias to be appreciated, which is now being recognized globally by many people.
The Indian diaspora in Brazil numbers around 4,000 and is mostly settled in large cities like Sao Paulo, Rio and Manaus. In the backdrop of the upcoming 2024 G20 summit taking place in Rio de Janeiro, DD India's Gautam Roy visited Rio's Mahatma Gandhi or Mahatma Gandhi Square and spoke with the cross sections of Indians in Brazil on whether India's recognition and respect stems from the apostle of peace and where does it stand today. Take a look.
The G20 summit in 2024 is taking place in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and we're in the heart of Rio right now, a place called Lapa, which is known for its nightlife as well, but it also has, right in the heart of it, a statue of Mahatma Gandhi, and this is Mahatma Gandhi Square, Prasar Mahatma Gandhi. And a lot of people in Brazil identify India with the Mahatma. Let's find out from some of the Indians who've been staying here. How is India perceived in this day and age? Is it a land of peace because of Gandhi, or is it a land of mud?
Let's now go back to Abuja in Nigeria, where numerous MOUs have been signed between India and Nigeria. Earlier today, Prime Minister Modi of India was accorded ceremonial reception, which was followed by one-on-one talks between Prime Minister Modi and His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, after which delegation-level talks took place between the two sides, the Indian side being led by Prime Minister Modi and the Nigerian side being led by their president, and after which the MOUs in key areas have been inked between India and Nigeria, the details of which we'll be giving you shortly. The both sides reviewed the strategic partnership and discussed further avenues to enhance their bilateral relationship. Prime Minister in the evening today will also be addressing a diaspora gathering in Nigeria. Remember, India and Nigeria have been strategic partners since 2007 with growing economic, energy and defense collaboration in other sectors as well. India and Nigeria also share a strong development cooperation partnership. And over the decade, particularly under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, this relationship has grown beyond political exchanges and diversified in various fields such as education, healthcare, defense and trade. The visuals of the exchange of memoranda of understanding between the Indian and Nigerian delegation, the Indian side being represented by Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi in the presence of Minister of External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar, Foreign Secretary, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, among others, and the Nigerian side being led by their President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi is in Nigeria at the invitation of President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The visuals of the exchange of MOU between both sides. These were the latest visuals from Nigeria, where India and Nigeria signed key MOUs. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu hosted India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi for lunch as well. The details of memorandum of understandings will also be coming up in our subsequent bulletins. And shifting focus to some more news and updates. Now let's get you something on the COP29, which is currently in Baku. Which is currently underway in Baku. India has criticized developed nations for stalling progress on climate finance and mitigation, highlighting the disproportionate impacts of climate change on developing countries. India called out the lack of ambition and support from wealthier nations. India has urged respect for past agreements and demanded equitable responsibility to ensure some sort of meaningful global climate action. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya gets us more.
At the ongoing COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, India expressed strong dissatisfaction over the reluctance of developed countries to engage meaningfully on climate finance and the Mitigation Work Programme, or MWP. India aligned its stance with the views expressed by the like-minded developing countries, LMDCs, the Arab Group and the African Group of Negotiators, or AGN. India's statement highlighted the disproportionate impacts of climate change on developing countries, noting their limited capacity to recover or adapt. It called out developed nations for ignoring past decisions, particularly those from COP27, and undermining the principles of the Paris Agreement. The statement stressed that the Mitigation Work Programme was established as a non-punitive framework that respects national sovereignty. India criticized developed nations for shifting goalposts, delaying their own climate action, and consuming a disproportionate share of the global carbon budget. As the impacts of climate change intensify, India has called for greater accountability from developed nations, urging them to step up their mitigation ambition and provide necessary financial support. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
The Indian Navy is set to conduct the 4th edition of the Pan-India Coastal Defence Exercise titled Sea Vigil 24 on November 20th and 21st. The exercise offers a significant opportunity to assess current preparedness of all maritime security agencies, identify their strengths and weaknesses, and enhance the nation's overall maritime defence framework. Here's more.
To check the efficacy of various security agencies, 4th edition of Pan-India Coastal Defence Exercise Sea Vigil 24 will be conducted on 20th and 21st November this year. The 4th edition of Exercise Sea Vigil, conducted by the Indian Navy, will span an unprecedented scale both in terms of geographical reach and the magnitude of participation, with involvement of 6 ministries and 21 organizations or agencies.
Sea Vigil is a pan-Navy exercise. It involves all the agencies and the authorities who are associated with maritime security, coastal defense, offshore security. This includes about 6 ministries and nearly 20 organizations. It is being spearheaded by the Indian Navy but has got very prominent participation from the Indian Coast Guard, the State Marine Police, the Fisheries Department, the Port Authorities, Director General of Shipping, CISF, BSF and many other agencies.
The focus will be on strengthening the security of coastal assets like ports, oil rigs, single-point moorings, cable landing points, and critical coastal infrastructure, including the coastal population. Western Naval Command is responsible for the coastal defense of the states of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, and the Union Territory of Daman and Diu. Exercise Sea Vigil 24 will be conducted simultaneously in all coastal states and the union territories of the country, wherein thorough audit of complete coastal defense and security infrastructure will be carried out.
To keep a check that our coastal line is totally secure, Indian Navy along with several other organizations are conducting Sea Vigil, which is the exercise wherein all organizations related to the sea are connected. We understand that Sea Vigil, which comprises of Indian Navy, Coast Guard, Mumbai Police, Marine Police, DG Shipping, DG Lighthouse and many more are totally involved in this, and this will take place on 20 and 21st of November, and we can understand from then that the security, the forces will be further strengthened. With camera person Gaurav Kagra, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live, this is what we have for you. Coming up next, Super Typhoon Mon-yi, the 6th tropical cyclone sweeps across northern parts of Philippines. And polls open in Senegal's parliamentary polls as President Bassirou Diomaye aims for resounding majority.
G20 meeting taking place in Rio on the 18th and 19th of this month. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating here as well, along with the leaders of the world's 20 largest economies who will be deliberating on key issues such as eliminating hunger and poverty, sustainable development. For all the latest on the 2024 G20 summit in Rio, join me, Gautam Roy, only on DD India.
दीदी नौकरी लग गई।
अरे वाह, बधाई हो। तो अब तो ढेर सारी शॉपिंग।
हाँ दी, नया मोबाइल।
अरे रुको शहजादे, सैलरी से पहले खर्चे।
इंस्टेंट लोन भी तो मिलता है।
पहले बजट बनाना सीखो, फिर खर्च करो।
पर दी,
देखो, कमाई का एक हिस्सा हमेशा बचाना चाहिए, लेकिन पार्टी देने से नहीं बचोगे तुम।
हाँ दी, पार्टी मेरी, बजट तुम्हारा।
अच्छा।
आरबीआई कहता है,
सही वित्तीय बर्ताव करे आपका बचाव।
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Let's move on to some other news updates. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Saturday pledged to work with the incoming administration of US President-elect Donald Trump, highlighting the importance of maintaining stability in US-China relations. His remarks came during a meeting with outgoing US President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum in Lima in Peru for the first talks in 7 months. Acknowledging the ups and downs, quote-unquote, between the countries, she said that China's goal of a stable, healthy and sustainable China-US relationship remains unchanged, whereas Biden told Xi Jinping that the two leaders haven't always agreed, but their discussions have been frank and candid.
China is ready to work with the new US administration to maintain communication, expand the cooperation and manage differences so as to strive for a steady transition of the China-US relationship for the benefit of the two peoples. China-US relations is critical not only to the interest of the Chinese and American peoples, but also to the future and destiny of the entire humanity.
I once had to count up the number of hours you and I spent alone together. I remember being on the Tibetan Plateau with you, and I remember being in Beijing, I remember all over the world, and both as first as vice president, then as president. We haven't always agreed, but our conversations have always been candid and always been frank. We have never kidded one another. We've been level with one another. I think that's vital. These conversations prevent miscalculations, and they ensure the competition between our two countries will not veer into conflict. Be competition, not conflict.
President Joe Biden is set to make history on Sunday by becoming the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Amazon rainforest, highlighting the pressing issue of global warming. Biden's trip to Amazon aims to bolster his commitment to preserving the region. He'll be meeting with local leaders and indigenous communities working to protect the forest area. On to Russia-Ukraine onslaught, where Russia has launched its target wave of airstrikes on Ukraine in recent months, firing 120 missiles and 90 drones, resulting in at least 7 deaths and significant damage to Ukraine's power systems. The Russian attack prompted emergency power cuts across multiple regions. The timing is notable here as it follows Donald Trump's U.S. presidential election victory, where he pledged to end the conflict without providing specifics. And on to some updates on West Asia conflict, where an Israeli strike leveled a Lebanese building to the ground in Beirut, in the southern suburbs on Sunday. Israel's military has said that 2 people were injured when a synagogue was hit on Saturday in the northern coastal city of Haifa, following a heavy rocket barrage by Hezbollah group. Hezbollah has claimed several rocket attacks on northern Israel, saying it targeted military sites, including a naval base in the Haifa area. Super Typhoon Mani, the 6th tropical cyclone, swept across northern parts of Philippines on Sunday. Philippine authorities issued an urgent appeal for residents of low-lying areas and coastal towns to move to the safer places. The Super Typhoon Mani gained strength on its approach towards Philippines' Luzon Island, with maximum sustained winds reaching 195 kilometers per hour. Well, polls opened in Senegal on Sunday for a parliamentary election that is set to determine if the country's newly elected president can carry out ambitious reforms or not. More than 7 million registered voters in the West African country are choosing 165 lawmakers in the National Assembly. Meanwhile, voting ended in Gabon on Sunday to approve the new constitution, which will mark a new chapter for the country after 55 years of dynastic rule. The new constitution would introduce the position of president. At least 5 people killed, a dozen others injured after a 4-floor building collapsed in Tanzania's commercial hub Kariakoo on Saturday. Search and rescue operations are underway. 21-year-old Victoria Jair was crowned Miss Universe 2024, the first contestant from Denmark to achieve the honor. The beauty pageant took place in Mexico City. On to some sports news. Indian chess player Arjun Erigasi has stunned world #1 Magnus Carlsen to a rare defeat during the Chess India Blitz Championship in Kolkata. Erigasi checkmated Carlsen in just 20 moves to hand him the first defeat in the tournament. However, the Norwegian Grandmaster managed to finish on top of the point table. The world #1 had registered 5 wins and 2 draws on the opening day of the championship, but Erigasi of India ended his unbeaten run with a spectacular victory in the 8th round. Earlier, Carlsen had defeated Arjun in a game lasting 40 moves. The 5-time world champion Carlsen had won the 2019 edition of the tournament. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.